Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our UNC Charlotte Procurement and Supply Management event. This is recorded, and we are so excited to answer all of your questions, but we will just ask that you wait until the end of the presentation, and we can kind of have a back and forth between the two of us. Between all of us. So first, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Janine Humphrey. I am the program director for this program, and I've been managing this program for about 10 years. We were very fortunate to be able to be in partnership with Procurement and Supply Management Solutions and G-Sean. I want to tell you a little bit about UNC Charlotte, and if you do decide to take this program, where you would fit into the larger university. We are housed in the School of Professional Studies. And one of the things that we are tasked with doing is we want, specifically for our professional development part of the School of Professional Studies, is that we like to have stackable credentials. And we want to appeal to career transitioners and also for people who are already in their career and they just want to stack this credential on to maybe get a promotion, maybe get, maybe go off and get a new position, that type of thing. And a lot of times our particular demographic, they may already have their 4-year degree, they may have their 2-year degree, and they just want specific training in order to take them to the next level. And that's what we are tasked with doing. So again, you're at UNC Charlotte and the School of Professional Studies, specifically housed in the home of professional development. And so the next thing I want to do is I want to introduce you to our next speaker and the person that is going to be in the position of telling you all about this program and exactly what they can offer. First, I want to give you a little bit of information about G-Sean Williams. So he, of course, it's something if he calls himself G-Sean. Yes, that's really his name. It is G-Sean, okay? And so with that being said, he has been in this particular environment for over 25 years. He's done procurement and supply management. He was recently the chief procurement officer for a major company, the Floor and Decor company. He has taught in over 15 different countries. He is the past president of the largest association that is devoted to procurement and supply management, the Institution of Supply Management, Carolinas, Virginia. And really, we get the best evaluations, 10 years of working with him, having at least sometimes 4 classes a year, sometimes 2 classes a year. We always get excellent evaluations. When we first started, our classes were face-to-face. Every time I walked past the class, there would be tons of laughter. Then we advanced, and I said, they're just having too good of a time in that class. You always have a great time in the class. I've actually sat in on the class before, and one of my takeaways from it is that my background is law. I do have a law degree, and it's just procurement and supply management. It's so applicable to so many different facets of your life, and as far as the business institution. For example, when he talks about the contracts and negotiations part, that's in my wheelhouse. I'm like, yes, procurement and supply management, you all do that too. And now that we have evolved and we're sophisticated, we wanted to make sure that we could make it more convenient for our students. We know it can be challenging to find parking on campus. We know it can be challenging, if you need childcare and you're trying to transition to this next position, but you do have a life. So now it's offered online, which is extremely convenient. It's so doable. Our program will be 8 weeks. So you can get it done in 8 weeks. You can devote yourself to 8 weeks, and it's 1 class a week. I mean, anyone can do that. You can do that. So now with that being said, I'm going to take it over to G-Sean, and I'm going to let you hear all about this program that you're interested in.
Thank you so much, Janine. And yes, it has been 10 years. It's quite crazy that not only has it been 10 years, but you age backwards. So I'm not sure how that works and how you get younger every year. But let me in on the secret because I noticed a couple wrinkles earlier this morning. After 25 years, you get stress wrinkles. But it's been an absolute pleasure to partner with the university on this program. And so I want to introduce two very special guests that I have the pleasure of hanging out with today and talking shop, really. We're going to talk about a little bit of contracting, a little bit about their background, negotiations, how do you lead sourcing projects, all that type of stuff that you don't get a chance to kind of hang out with your boss or your manager and talk about on a day-to-day basis because you're so in the grind. If you're like anyone else, you're trying to figure out what in the world's going on with tariffs, let alone the time to talk about your career and the development of your career. So I want to introduce Doretta Whitfield, who's the director of supplier diversity at Charter Communications and tons of experience in these sourcing space, strategic sourcing, procurement operations, supplier diversity, you name it. And also Stephanie Greco, who's the director of sourcing at Sedgwick. So if you guys are not familiar, Charter Communications is a $55 billion, I guess, mass media company, broadcast company. If you have cable, you probably have Charter. I don't know. I'm just making it up. But if you're watching cable, you're probably watching Charter. And if you don't know, Sedgwick, they're kind of like the insurance company behind the insurance company, right? And so claims management is their deal, about $5 billion. So they're not a small company at all. And so with that, Doretta and Stephanie, thank you guys for hanging out with me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh man, this is going to be interesting. And so I have to ask, this is the question that I always ask. Um, you have your title, which is commendable. So congratulations to both of you. You've been doing this for a long time in the game. But what is it about you and your background that your title doesn't say? So maybe I'll start with you, Doretta.
I feel like the thing that I guess I'm get most excited about that's probably in the background is that I am a fixer
Mm.
across the board. And I think across to your point, there's been a lot of different kind of pivots and roles in my career. But at the end of the day, there was always a problem that needed to be fixed or a gap that needed to be closed. Or something that needed to be done to help either the team, the project, the sourcing organization, the company be successful. And that's my favorite thing to do. It's like solving puzzles.
I love that. I never thought about it that way. But you are a fixer. I absolutely love that because oftentimes we think procurement, strategic sourcing, what are the job duties, what are my responsibilities? I'm like, you go to so many different industries. You can go from banking to
Yeah.
energy to manufacturing to microchips, all across the board. But at the end of the day, I'm going to tell everyone in the future, you're a fixer. And so thank you.
As you should.
Stephanie, what's not in your title?
Uh, well, I think the biggest thing, I mean, I do like puzzles and fixing too. I think that's for most procurement individuals, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a background. But curiosity and liking to take complex problems and boil them down and try to predict what's going to happen. So around market research and intelligence and understanding what's going on in the market and trying to figure out how we can align with the businesses to really make that a path forward and make our goals come to fruition.
Yeah, oh man. Did y'all do this on purpose? Like, did you guys get together without me before this and say, let's come up with one buzzword that would just knock his socks off? Curiosity is what you said, one of the first things that you said, Stephanie. And I think, what's beautiful about this profession, if there's anyone that loves the show, How It Was Made. You guys remember that show?
Yeah.
I was made, where they go into companies and it's like the chocolate factory and they see how chocolate is made. So our world, when you think about brokering a deal and closing a deal with a supplier on behalf of our corporations, we're going into these suppliers' facilities. we're going into these manufacturing production facilities, and we're understanding how it's made. And so if you're that type of person that maybe you have an engineering background and you like to tinker with things, this actually works for you in that particular scenario, because you get a chance to go into the supplier's facilities, even your own facility, wherever you're working, to see how it was made. I remember I was working for a chemical company, and it was nothing but pipes and tanks across the entire campus. And then one day somebody pulled me into their office and was like, "What do you know about this company?" I said, "Nothing." And so they walked me around. They walked me to the sales room. And in the sales room, I saw a can of Ajax. And I was like, "Wait, huh? How does that?" I remember my mother using Ajax to clean the bathroom when I was a kid. I was like, "How are we associated with Ajax?" It's like, well, when you actually sprinkle Ajax on the water and the crystals turn blue. I was like, "Yeah." It's like, that's a catalyst, and that's the cleaning agent coming out, and that's what we do. And I was like, oh wow, so this world is much bigger than just tanks and tubes and stuff like that. And so it's beautiful again how it was made. So curiosity is one, and then fixer is the other. So speaking of curiosity and fixing, contracts is one of the main things that we work on in our profession, right? And so whether it's a 3-page contract, or it's a letter of intent, or a purchase order, or maybe it's a multi-million dollar 200-page agreement, what contract do you guys remember the most in your career? Like, what stands out to you? Like, oh yeah, I remember working on this contract, or what was it about that contract that kind of got you excited, or you still remember, or maybe it stressed you out. I don't know. Maybe Stephanie, we'll start with you.
Sure, yeah. You always want to say it's the big ones, like the big software companies or all those, but the one that has stuck with me for at least 5 years is this little tiny $5,000 agreement.
Oh wow.
It seemed like it should have been a no-brainer. It's a little software, time tracking tool that we used in one of our facilities. But the kicker was there was cross-border transfer of data.
Okay.
And so when that happened, and we had people in the EU also using it, and their data was being transferred to the US, that created a lot of data privacy issues with GDPR. And so it became a much bigger ordeal than it actually, you would have thought it would have been. Should have been a quick sign it, let's move on. But with information and personal information transferring, we had to get our international attorneys involved. We had to get our privacy teams involved, and it spiraled for a little while, unfortunately. So every time that one comes up for renewal, I kind of cringe a little, and I'm like, oh.
That's funny. And just $5,000, right? Like, man, there's a lot of work going into this.
Right, right. But I guess that goes to show you that while the risk is greater a lot of times with these larger corporations and larger companies, it's not always the case. Sometimes it's this little guy that is in your tailspin that you don't necessarily think of that can create a much bigger risk across the organization.
Yeah, yeah, that is life. That is life. So I'm sorry, I digress a little bit. You talk about sometimes it's a little small, little minute, and so I have this beautiful house, and I'm just joking. I have this house out in Houston, and there's so many things I can be worried about, but the small things is what matters. And there's a little vent in the third bathroom that the birds like to hang out in. And so, you think it's the mortgage that you're worried about. You think it's the insurance that you're worried about. No, it's fixing that vent. And so the beautiful thing about procurement and sourcing professionals is you may work on a $5 million contract, or you may work on a $5,000 contract, but all of them are the same when you're looking at the financial impact and the financial risk associated with those deals. And I just wanted to talk about the birds in my house. That was a good little feed into birds. But anyway, Doretta, how do you follow that? How
I'm
do you
thinking about
follow
the
that?
birds in your house now too. I think kind of similar to Stephanie's, my contract that sticks out to me is probably the first one that I negotiated. And for similar reasons, it was background screening services within the US, but for a global company. And it was just interesting to know that you had to balance all the various stakeholder groups. So you'd think it's just background screening services for a company's new hire employees. Oh, that's just HR. It was HR, it was the corporate security, it was, you know, various other stakeholders across the business, it was different levels, it was legal from the standpoint of being a stakeholder, from what are the different laws in the states where we operate and what can we check and not check, and a variety of different things. So I think to that regard, it's the stakeholder management piece stood
Yeah.
out, and having to get everybody to agree on the same page, get everybody to, you know, agree to the same scorecarding and weights and how are we going to make decisions. So just learning that before you even negotiate the contract, it's the people management and the process management to get it done that is critical in some cases.
Yeah, yeah. Let's just say flashbacks or trauma. I'm not sure which one, but you're bringing it back to me. That management. I think about a buddy of mine is planning a trip to Cancun this summer for his birthday, and I can imagine he never thought about the sourcing profession. He's been a sales guy all of his life, but he's living it. He's literally living it in real time, you know, over the course of the last 3 months of, as you said, Doretta, managing your stakeholders. And so he has to manage all of us, what we want to do, what we want to eat, you know, what excursions we're interested in. And so that's procurement. And people don't look at it that way, but it's just as simple as that. If you're planning a girls' trip, or if you got a vacation or a wedding, this event management, essentially that's kind of the same thing as procurement
Yeah.
to a certain extent, right? And so he's negotiating with the hotels, and I called him up and I was like, "Hey, I think my corporate rate's better than yours." It's like, dude, I got so many things to worry about. You want to, you know, nickel and dime me over $5? So speaking of which, that's his negotiation. I'm curious about negotiations that you guys have had in the past, and maybe if you think about the best negotiations that you were personally a part of, or you witnessed, or either or, right? What do you think are some of the key skills, I guess I should say, or the key traits that will make a successful negotiator? Let's any, mini, miny, mo. Stephanie, you want to take that one?
Sure. I think there's probably on a high level two big areas that I think are the most important that you don't necessarily think about when you're first learning about negotiations, right? Is what's the motive of the other party? Is
Oh,
is it their compensation package? Is it that they want to sell just this one piece of it? They could care about the other modules? Is that they're just trying to get out the door because it's the end of the quarter? So some of those things will play into how and when you negotiate with them. And then on the other side of it, it is knowing operationally how your company operates and
oh,
what
wow.
impacts financials. Is it the resources needed? Is it the rates? And are the rates just a bottom line, the cost of goods sold, or are you passing some of that along in your pricing model? Because then a rate decrease may not actually be beneficial to you. Is it around working capital and how our payment terms are? Because sometimes the savings could be better if you hold cash longer than if you're going to be, you know, go ahead and give them 30 days, but we'll take a price cut. So there's all those little factors around levers you can pull when it comes to the type and scope of work that you're trying to source and how that plays into the negotiation.
Man, you guys are much smarter than I am. So, you know, it's almost, Stephanie, like you looked at the course deck, the book of knowledge that we go over in the PSM professional program. Because literally, one of the first things that we talk about is understanding someone else's sheet of paper. Right? We oftentimes go into negotiations and we say, "What do we want? What do I need?" But we don't understand what they're trying to accomplish. And so I love that, Stephanie. You want to touch on that, Doretta, or?
Yeah, I would flow from that too, because I'd say there are two things. that I've seen work best overall, and it is, to Stephanie's point, being prepared and understanding the situation. So coming from e-sourcing as a background and kind of facilitating, helping others structure their bids so they can be successful later, that was probably one of the things that I learned. Some of the best negotiations come from more prepared upfront bidding work and getting the details out of the actual RFP process. So you do know, that, to your point, that other people's sheet of paper, or at least everything you need to know about the landscape of what you want to include in your bid. So I think that kind of upfront, I almost want to say it's like getting the insider knowledge or the behind the scenes information up front
Uh-huh.
is the most helpful. And then I'll never forget that what was drilled into me early on was that the best negotiator is the one that's most comfortable being quiet and waiting
Oh,
through the process.
oh, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's I've always enjoyed seeing that play out in rooms and for other folks in their negotiations as well. It's just, if you can just wait for the other party to cave or to speak up, then they'll eventually show their hand or capitulate to what you're asking for along the
yeah,
way.
yeah. The awkward 3-second pause, right?
Mhm.
Which is we talk about that in the negotiations module inside of the program. I think module 6 or something like that, right? And sometimes we just like to talk. And unfortunately, in certain moments, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. And so try that, for folks that are watching this webinar, try that next time with your significant other. Don't get in trouble. But right before you're getting ready to say something, just be quiet for 3 seconds and see what happens. And then text us and call us, or hit us up on LinkedIn and tell us what your experience was.
You know, that works pretty well with kids too.
Yeah.
You do it, yeah, yeah. Try it on your kids.
Yeah.
We're getting everyone in trouble, Stephanie. And so I have a bonus question on that negotiations. One of the things that we talk about in the PSM professional program is influence. All right, negotiations and influence go hand in hand. And how do you influence people? And so there's 6 dynamics of influence that we'll touch inside of the program. I'll give everyone 3, and then you gotta go through the program to get the other 3. But let's say prize, process, and let's go with prototype. Right. So in the prize, sometimes people just want to win. The process, sometimes they need to see how it works. And then the prototype, sometimes people just need to get a version of what it could look like in order for them to be influenced. And there's 3 more that we talk about inside of the program. But I'm just curious, ladies, how do you think you influence, or is there an example of someone that you have influenced using, one of those methods? I'll let you think about that because that's a hard one. Because
Well,
sometimes we don't think that we're doing it right. Sometimes we don't even know we're
right.
doing it. Yeah, yeah.
I'd say for me, it's probably more along the lines of process,
Mm,
and then with I guess a base level of understanding. So to that point of influencing, at the end of the day, folks want to make sure that they're heard and that their concerns are being applied. So that first listening to understand, and then you can kind of pick up what they want or need and fold it into the explanation of whether it's process or prototype. As long as you can show them at the end of the day, I heard you what you said, I know what you need, and here's how we can get to
mm,
it, or here's how we, it's not necessarily, or we shouldn't do that for this go round, but being able to explain to people on their level and at the level, speaking to their concerns
yeah,
and their touch,
yeah, yeah.
that usually gets people to drop their guard and be willing.
No, you're dead on. I kind of cheat on that question because I have worked with you guys in the past, whether it was officially at a corporation or a conference, or we did a program together. And so I kind of have some thoughts in my head. And so, Doretta, I would agree with you. I've watched you at conferences, over the years, leading your staff when you got your full team there, and you're influencing them with process. You do such an elegant job of influencing them with the process. Okay, this is how we're going to do X, YZ. This is where we need to be, and then next we're going to do that, and then tomorrow let's come back and accomplish this. And so I've seen that in real time. So I think you're talking the truth,
Thank you.
percent. Yeah.
I've learned it works with kids too as well. They just need to understand.
I don't have any kids yet, but I'll keep that in mind. I'm gonna keep that in mind. Stephanie?
Well, to play on that, I mean, I think, yeah, painting that bigger picture for whoever you're speaking to. So, and catering it to their mode of thinking has worked for me. So I have a team, my contracts team, they're honestly, most of them come from an engineering background. So they're very process driven. So understanding the process, speaking to them in that manner really helps them. But if I'm going to go and talk to some of the executives, it's more of that bigger picture and what does this do financially to impact the company and how does it benefit us and help us reach those long-term goals. So it is about reading people, understanding their thought process, and they all really want to know how it's going to benefit them, right? So what's it going to do for them, their business, or the overall business? I think those are the biggest things. And then consistency, honestly, is huge when it comes to having trust and them trusting us in order to be able to influence them and have more of an impact. And you have to be consistent in what you say you're doing and doing what you say you're going to do and showing up.
Yeah, no, man, I agree 100%. That trust, you mentioned the word trust. What's funny is we need like a repository of these, these one state, one word, I guess let's call it buzzwords that you guys are dropping, these nuggets. They resonate so well. Sometimes if I were to just close my eyes and listen to these words that you guys are dropping, I wouldn't even think that you guys are talking about procurement and supply management. I would think you're just talking about life and how do you maneuver and broker your way through life. A lot of people are spending money every day and don't realize that, we do this for corporations more formally every day. So the same as you going out and doing your son's birthday party, or the same as buying dinner for the family for your niece's graduation, those type of things that we're doing on behalf of our corporations every day. So Stephanie, you also mentioned something. I'm going to transition a little bit into numbers, right? We talk about our leadership team and how do we take all of the work that we're doing and convert it into numbers. But I'm going to touch it from an analytics perspective. We oftentimes talk about sourcing specialists or analysts that, there's just a shortage of folks that understand how to take numbers and tell a story. Man, we had 10 more of those, right? We got 20 more of those. Every company can use that particular specialty. And so how do you guys see, and this is a trick question, right? Not really, but how do you guys see analytics playing into kind of sourcing and supplier management?
I see it as the single most important foundation of anything you could possibly do. So much so that I've spent the last 6 years, even just in supplier diversity, trying to improve our access to analytics and numbers. And that is a hot topic as well. There's a degree of you can get somebody that can run a spreadsheet or pull numbers or build some formulas, but can they tell you what the numbers mean or say, or what's the story in there? Because to Stephanie's earlier point, usually when you're speaking to executives, you've got to speak at a higher level, and you've got to, what's the tagline? What actually matters here? So how do you look at tens of thousands of rows of data, or for a smaller business, just data in general, figure out what's important, what matters, what do we tackle first, and what's the impact? I think you said it earlier with negotiating the contracts. What's going to be the end state? What's the most important thing for our company to get out of the deal? Where are going to be the triggers? You don't know that without access to information. And so I would add to that it's important that we don't think about data and analytics as just dollars and cents. There's data on, how many resources it takes to run a team. There's data on, lead time, how long it takes to get to other things. All of that is critical data, and you have to know what's important and how to navigate it to get to your point.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Stephanie, you have any thoughts on that?
I completely agree. And I agree to your point that it's been harder and harder to find individuals who can do both. Because it's one thing to be able to read the report that somebody sends you, but to be able to dig in and really understand what the numbers mean and tactically perform the analysis, that is becoming fewer and farther between as well. With sometimes it strikes me as odd considering how much data is out there. I mean, it's been out there. I've been in this field for 18 years at least, and it's been a huge factor from when I started till now. So the fact that there are still people out there that lean to one side or the other, I understand, but you really need to understand the data, how to manipulate it, how to understand what it's telling you. There's trends in there, and sometimes we go into these complex events that we don't know what we're looking for. You know, we don't really know what the business owner wants. It's a discovery session, but we don't know what the options are. And you can dig in and find out that we've been the roadblock the entire time. We have rules in place that have shut things down, that have, you know, gotten in the way of cost savings or different things. And if you struggle in that area, you won't be able to see those, you won't be able to communicate in the way that the other parties and stakeholders will understand.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Um I was thinking how important, as you talked about, I've never said the years, by the way, Stephanie. You threw out the number 18 years that you've been in this space, and I guess 25 years did come up earlier, and I'm not going to say Doretta's years.
I don't know. I'll try not to think about it.
I was doing a speaking engagement last year, maybe 2 years ago, and I came to the conclusion that the number of years that I've been in the procurement and supply management space was now more than half of the years that I've been alive.
Mm.
So if you can back your way into that, if that's a way of decoding how old I am, but I want to talk about as we talk about over the years, right? That's my point is 18 years, 25 years, 20 years, doesn't matter. But over the years, what has happened is development, advancements in technology. And one of those advancements is AI, right? And one of the cool things about this program that we've incorporated for 2025 is how to leverage AI to be able to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And so I tested it out, Doretta. I called up a friend of mine who was versed in AI about 18 months ago and said, "Hey, how does this work?" And he said, "I'll come over this weekend and I'll show you." And so he came over and he uploaded this thing called Chat GPT on my computer. And I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" He's like, "Think of it like Google, but you're querying millions of people for the answer." I'm like, okay. So he said, put in an inquiry. I said, all right, fine, I'll put in an inquiry. And so I typed in what should be my monthly budget and spend for a $2,000 square foot house in Houston, Texas, blah, 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 blah. And it spit out literally how much I should be paying for everything associated with my life, down to how much money I'm paying for my health insurance and the percentage of my housing cost that is. I was like, whoa. And so my point is, have you seen AI kind of infiltrate its way into this procurement space? And have you jumped on that bandwagon yet? Or are you kind of waiting? Like, where are you guys with the AI situation?
I don't know if you've done any more on that, Deshaun, but if you go in and you do like menu planning, I mean, you can go into all aspects of your life, right? I've seen people use it for their workouts. Like, give me a detailed strength training. You can go to the nth degree on it, and it's fun to play around with. We've done some testing. We haven't ventured into that too far because in our space, you know, we're service based, and we hold a lot of confidential information. So while we've dabbled and I've played some things on my own, one of the things that we really want to get into but haven't been able to get that approved yet is look into how that can help us streamline contracts. You know, with the breadth of this organization and the number of documents we go through, and if we start piling in, right now, a lot of our contracts are regionally reviewed, but we're centralizing some of that. And there's regulations in every country. There's all of the different clauses and different language that you have to include. And creating a knowledge bank, there are softwares that will do a knowledge bank per region, and then it will run through an initial view to see, and then spit back what what compares to your standard language, what's out of scope, you know, are you going to approve this? So it really cuts down on the processing time, and that piece looks really cool. And then another area we've want to dabble with, but we haven't quite yet, is doing simulations for negotiations.
Okay. Okay.
And seeing, you know, can you get the response that you anticipate, and prepare those trainees as to how to react when they start to get those responses.
Yeah, there's all different types of ways to use it. We're going to touch on a few in the PSM professional program, but man, it's such a vast space. I won't put you on the spot, Doretta.
I'll tell you, we're a little bit slow and cautious adapters. So they're not quite so willy-nilly in leveraging AI in the company now, until we've developed kind of a custom solution that we can apply across the company. But same thing, mostly process improvements and automation of anything that could be redundant or sped up by querying millions of people in a short period of time.
You know, maybe I'll give you guys a homework assignment. Is this class? You know, it's like, dude, this is not class.
Getting geared up, huh?
But if you wanted to, this is optional. And this is for anyone that's listening. If you wanted to put in what type of 10-year anniversary gift can I buy for G-Sean and Janine that has been running this PSM professional program? Janine, which is an Amazon beautiful woman, and G-Sean, which is okay looking, in which G-Sean lives in Houston and Janine is in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then see in AI what type of results you get. Let us know what to come up with. But you got like I don't know, like 7 minutes to do it as we get ready to wrap up. So, you know, speaking of wrapping up, if you guys have questions, if you're listening right now, you have questions, please feel free to drop those questions in the chat. We want to hear from you as well. I got one last question. Man, time goes by way too fast, way too fast. We got to get the gang back together. But my last question is for some of those folks that are newer to this, you know, procurement thing, or maybe they're looking to switch careers and get involved in procurement and supply management or logistics or whatever part of supply chain they're interested in. But I'm going to focus on procurement and sourcing for now. If you had to kind of sit down and tackle a sourcing initiative, doesn't matter what category or, you know, what part of the spin, but what are some of the things that you're thinking about if you decided to jump into this career? You're going to learn those type of things in the PSM professional program. But let's say that you want to get the role first and then take the class. And so if you get that role and you get your first assignment to go source something, what are some of the things that you ladies would say, hey, you know what, you probably need to think about, you know, these a few things?
I'll let you go first, Stephanie.
Oh, sure.
What kind of you there?
It's a long list.
Yeah, it can be, and there's so many different angles you could take. You know, there's the steps of a sourcing event, right? What are you sourcing? But for me, the biggest thing, especially if it's one, you've not done it before and you don't necessarily know the category, dive in, ask questions. There goes that curious piece again. It's spend time with the stakeholders, do your market research, learn how to properly understand the market. That's part of it. But also, like, what are they doing? What are they doing today? What are the needs? How does it usually work? And then challenge that. And don't be, you know, combative about it. But as a person going in with new eyes, that's one of the benefits of our role is we work on so many different aspects of the organization that we're not in it every day. So we might see things that they don't see as being, in the operations every day. So don't be afraid to ask those questions and challenge a little as to why things are being done the way they are. But from all the skills that we talked about, it's, learning influence, learning about analysis, those soft skills, which is kind of, I feel like marketing, branding, influence, negotiation, all kind of interweave. So I don't want people to feel that if they've been in sales or they've been in those different areas that they wouldn't succeed in this area. You probably would succeed more than you think.
Yeah. I oftentimes think about you nailed it again with the buzzwords, right? But that curiosity, the marketing piece, being able to sell an idea or a concept. I like to dumb it down, right? And I think about grocery shopping. Um, I'll share one failure of mine, to be honest with you. Everybody shares their successes, but I cannot decipher the best bathroom tissue to buy every time I go to Target. I am so confused. I am so confused. It's like this one is 2 rows, but it's only one, and this one is 6 times the amount of coverage. And like, what does that mean? It's like it says it's 24 rows, but I count it and there's only 12. And so I'm so confused. But if that type of stuff excites you, then you probably will love procurement and supply management. If you're always curious as to should I really pay another dollar for the organic banana, then you probably would love this space. If you love the girl strip organization, then you're probably gonna love this
Yeah.
space. But anyway, that's just me. Like when I think about how to tackle a project, I like to make it personal. And so, how would I tackle that bathroom tissue project if I was responsible for sourcing it? And 2 rows are really equal to 8, right? And try to get my arms around the data, which we talked about earlier. But Doretta, what would you get your arms around?
I really like Stephanie's point of figuring out the what and the why and challenging maybe the how. Um, the only thing I would add to that is kind of what we were saying before with just influence in general is make sure you understand the culture of the organization as well. So there's the tacticals of what are we doing, why are we doing, what do you want to be the end state, and then there's kind of the soft fuzzies behind the scenes that could be landmines of how do I actually approach it, or what's the expectation, or am I involving all the right stakeholders, and do I need to get vetting from certain people before I move on and make decisions? But just understanding the culture of the organization so that you can operate successfully through it. And then likewise to that, I'd say a big piece in understanding the market that I think folks forget is that you can have conversations with suppliers without feeling like there's a commitment, or just ask them like, what, how does this really work, or what are your experiences with these
Man,
programs?
people don't think about that. That's a great point.
They know better sometimes, and I do think that's a part that's missed also in the bidding process is sometimes companies get so focused on here's what I think we need or here's what we want that you forget to ask, are we missing anything? Has there been any other change in technology or capability out there that suppliers know? Is there anything coming down the pike or that we're on the cusp of that we should maybe consider now, especially if you're going into a longer term agreement, or just what are your other customers doing wrong that you can fix, and maybe they're just not listening to you. But you can learn a lot from just talking to the suppliers and asking them general questions without being committed to giving them a business award or contract or anything like that. So you kind of also have to understand the culture of your organization to understand how to bring that information back in and fold it into the process. So I think it goes a little bit back to stakeholder management and knowing the landscape.
Knowing the landscape. I am going to put you guys on the spot. We talked about influence earlier. So many things that you ladies have touched in this conversation are different modules of the PSM professional program. So we talk about analytics and understanding your baseline. That's one module. We talk about negotiations and influence. That's another model. Contracting is another module. And so we're gonna wrap up here, but I'm gonna put you ladies on the spot. I'm gonna go into the influence module, and I'm gonna say if I ask you to sit in on the class and hang out with the participants, would you tell me yes? You have to say yes now. but you're in front of everyone right now live, right? And so it's up to you. It's like a proposal. You can't say no, but you don't have to say yes.
There you go. Maybe. Sounds like
Maybe.
you left
Oh
room for a
man.
maybe in there.
Oh, I didn't think about the
Negotiable.
maybe.
Anything can be negotiated.
Oh, see, fair,
Yeah.
fair. I have so many more questions, but the time will not allow. Time goes by way too fast when you're having fun. I did get one question from a viewer. So I'll let you think about this. I'm gonna turn it over to Janine, but ladies, I'll let you think about this last question. We might have time to just kind of throw out a very quick answer, but it's kind of along the lines, if I paraphrase it, being a director in procurement is not an easy thing to do, and growing in your career and developing in your career. Did you ladies ever think you would be at this level? And how much fun are you having? So that's kind of the paraphrase of the question. But as you think about that, and as we get ready to wrap up, Jenny, I want to talk about the actual program for a second. As you mentioned earlier, it's an 8-week program. It's all, people say online. This was actually instructor-led. So it was a virtual instructor-led program, and we go through 8 modules throughout the course of the journey to get you prepared, whether you're new to the profession or you are changing careers, or maybe you've been around for a little while. This is a great refresher to kind of come and share your knowledge with the rest of the classmates. We've graduated hundreds of professionals in this program. So it's a pretty cool network. I want to say there's at least 40 Fortune 500 companies. Because at UNC Charlotte, when we were face to face, there was a lot of Wells Fargo, Duke Energy, you name all of the companies, Bank of America. A lot of those folks went through the program, but when we opened it up virtually, we got folks from across the world going through the program. So did I touch on everything, Janine? Did I miss anything? I'm sure I missed everything.
Yeah, I hope you all have enjoyed this conversation. I feel like I've learned a lot from you, Stephanie and Doretta. This has just been really interesting and informative. I wanted to get to some of the nuts and bolts while still leaving us a little bit of an opportunity for the participants to ask questions, because I'm sure that you all have questions. So as G-Sean mentioned earlier, there are 8 modules in the program, and it is virtual, but it is live online. So you will be having a conversation with your instructor. It's not a virtual, it's not asynchronous. It is synchronous. So we do expect attendance once a week. And each week you'll be going through a different module. And there is homework, but it's not the kind of homework where you will not be able to do anything outside of your life. It's not 3 hours of homework. It's probably not even 2 hours of homework. Then at the end of the modules, you'll have kind of like a comprehension test, just to make sure that you know what you've learned. And then you can also look at, okay, this is something that I might want to work on a little bit, because we don't just give certificates. We want you to actually earn the certificate, and we want your certificate to mean something, because we are well known in the area, and and this program has been going on for 10 years. G-Sean is very modest. He's actually helped people get jobs, just knowing that, and other people who are also in the industry, they know that when they hire someone who's actually gone through our program, they have an idea of the different tools that they've had. So we probably are owed a little bit of money for training and development, considering how we train people before they get hired. They already know the lingo when they go into these new professions. So that's another benefit. I don't like to hide information. So as it is on the website, it's $13.75 for the program. You can pay a $500 deposit. And thankfully nowadays, we also have a payment plan. So you can break this up over a course of 2 months. So that makes it a little bit more digestible. We understand that you all have other commitments and financial obligations. So I hope that you all will think about just the investment in you. We invest in vacations, We invest in Starbucks, like for a $5 cup of coffee, which is crazy. I have done it myself. So just think about, but those
It's
things,
$5.
I know. I'm cheap, G-Sean. I'm not gonna spend over $5. I drink my coffee black. So, yeah, you think about all those things that you spend money on, and then it's gone. You know, we just consume, 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 versus this program. This is knowledge that will be with you. It will change your viewpoint on the way you look at everything. And it is a line item on your resume that you will have for life. It doesn't change. So that's just something to think about. And with that, I will open it up to questions.
Yeah, yeah. You got two questions that I've seen. One I just mentioned earlier, but I'll go to a quick question. Are there any prerequisites to enter the program? That's a very good question. No, you know, we wanted to make sure, you know, typically, for the most part, we know that there's folks that are maybe you got your associates, or maybe you've been kind of working in customer service for the last 5 years, or maybe you were in sales for the last 7 years. And so we take any experience and help you convert that over into bettering your career. And so we did have a prerequisite long time ago, and we took that away because we felt people that were serious about doing this type of program, they were serious about it. And so we felt no need to put a prerequisite there. Um, Doretta, Stephanie, really quickly, did you think you'll be this successful in your career? This procurement thing?
Dorada, I'll let you answer first
Yeah.
since I answered first last time.
Unfortunately, I am one of those that never feels like I've peaked at success or hit the level that I'm looking for. But I will say I did not envision this. And when I do, I'm making it a point to look back on and my experiences, life and career and all of that. And I do recognize I've had a lot more experiences than peers and even some folks that have been in the game a little bit longer than me, and I'm grateful for those opportunities. So I've got a lot in my tool belt, and I did not expect those things would have been there. So now it's quite surprising, and I hope it continues to be surprising.
We've had a chance to work on projects, both in the corporate space and then in other, you know, volunteer roles in different organizations. And Doretta is sharp, man. Doretta is sharp. We met years ago. Can I tell how we met?
Yes, you remember.
I remember,
Okay.
I was uh, senior manager or something like that in the paper and packaging industry, and we strongly recruited Doretta to come be one of our co-ops for the company. And she was sharp then, and she literally has done nothing but continue to accelerate in her career. And so it's kind of like I've seen um, that full career come to fruition, and it really got so much more to go. So so it's pretty cool that we get a chance to hang out and do this. You never know how small these circles are in this profession. Stephanie.
Yeah, I think that I thought that I would continue to grow. I'm with you. I'm a continual learner, and I always want to grow. And I think there's still upward mobility. At least that's what I'm working towards. I will say though, a little differently, I don't know that I ever imagined it would be in this space when I was young and
Mm,
thinking about things. I
mm.
didn't really know what space of the corporate world I wanted to be in, but once I found it and I started in logistics and predictive, like demand planning and inventory management, once I found it and it clicked and I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So since then, it's just taken off.
It has. We've known each other for 4 years, 3 years,
Yeah,
4 years.
I mean, it was COVID time, so it was probably
COVID time.
4 or 5 years. Yeah.
And we spent 24 hours of course time together.
That was a fun class though.
Well,
We had a lot of military guys in there. That
yeah.
negotiations class was,
The negotiations
yeah.
class. Um, and you've done a phenomenal job. One of the things you touched on is actually the next question. And I think maybe the last question as we really wrap up for real. Can you share advice for someone looking to transition into procurement from another field? Any quick thoughts?
In thinking about bridging the gaps, it's really that. It's where identify the skills and competencies that you have already that are similar. And that might be just a quick search of job postings to figure out what those skills even are that are required or what the companies are looking for, and make sure you align. And then on the ones that don't align or where you have gaps, maybe look for courses like this where you can build those skills and experiences, or side projects in your current role that you can do that maybe aren't completely out of the scope of your current role, but would help you build those skills and competencies. And so to Jishan's point, I believe that you've made earlier, it's not necessarily that you've had to have done the work before, as long as you can approach it in the thought process and you have the experiences where somebody might trust you. I do also take on, and I'll be brief, I had a lot of experience earlier being able to interview C-level executives as an entry-level employee, kind of getting their career story. And one that sticks is the president at that time of that packaging company Jishan and I worked at
Okay.
there.
Okay.
He made it a point to say, I knew I wanted to move from operations to corporate. So I was able, well, he was in corporate and he wanted to lead. So he moved from corporate to operations, and he took 2 or 3 levels of a cut so that he could gain that kind of other level of experience. So he's able to go down in order to rise and have more across the board experience. You have to just kind of be prepared for whatever it might take, I'd say.
Oh, man, that's so critical. There's a gentleman that called me. He's a general manager at Dairy Queen. And I told him, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said the name, sorry. But I told him how much procurement professionals make. And he's like, man, I'm ordering all of the supplies. I'm managing the vendors. I'm doing procurement. I just never thought about it because I'm a general manager of a retail shop, but I'm doing procurement. And I think, like you said, Doretta, is whether or not you're in that space, not necessarily that you're officially that title, but it's the way you think, is what you said, right? Executive assistants that are managing all of the printers, you are doing procurement. This is a great space for you. Stephanie, I'll give you the 30-second closure.
Yeah, I think it's just getting a proximity of people doing it and learning if there are those skills that will interchange, because I find that as I've worked in different areas, different industries, all of that experience only benefits this role.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. We have to close our deal on getting you guys to guest speak inside of the procurement professional program, but we'll take that offline. You're lucky. You the biggest concession is you make your biggest concessions when you're short on time, and I think you ladies have used that against me in this particular situation. So we'll take that negotiation offline. I'll turn it over to Janine to close us out. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening to this webinar. Thank you, Doretta. Thank you, Stephanie, so much.
I just want to thank you all for attending this session. You can always reach us at ceregistration@charlotte.edu. You can always sign up for the course online. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us, and we are more than happy to answer any of the questions that you have about this program. Thank you again, Stephanie, Doretta, for being on this webinar and giving us so much valuable information. And thank you, Jishan. And I did chat GPT gifts that I can give you. You seem to be fun and unique. One of the things that sticks out of my mind is a bobblehead or caricature, because you are a caricature. Because this is a fun class, guys. This is a really fun class.
Bobblehead. See, that's when ChatGPT lets you down. It lets you down. No, actually, I would like that. ChatGPT is on point.
I know you would. I know you would. That's why I said it. I know you would love it.
That's awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.